Okay, so continuing with chapter 5, and we're going to look at 5.4, which is special products. Basically, there's a couple of rules, and just make sure you're following those rules, and it should work out. Okay. The first one we're going to talk about is the FOIL method, which I already spoke of in the last video, but just to get some of this stuff out of the way. So just kind of broken down and spelled out for you. So the FOIL method, F is first. So the first terms, so you take the 3x and the 2x because those are the first terms of each binomial. You multiply those and you get your answer. O is for outside, so you take the two outside pieces, so 3x and 5, 15x. I is for inside, so you take the two inside pieces, so 1 times 2x. And then L is for last, which is the last pieces of each binomial, so 1 and 5. And then, of course, you would take and add these two pieces right here. You would add those two together. So 15 and 2 is 17. And then you add them together. So you would wind up with 6x squared plus 17x plus 5 as your answer. Okay, so that's just kind of spelled out for you. All right, so let's look at this one here, where we have y minus 12 times y plus 4. So we get, the first would be y times y. Outside would be y times 4. Inside would be negative 12 times y. And last would be negative 12 times 4. And again, you would add these two together. So 4 minus 12 would be negative 8y. So your answer to this one would be y squared minus 8y minus 48. All right, so if we do this one, so 2x times 7x would be your first term. Our outside would be 2x and 5. Our inside is negative 4 and 7x. And our last is negative 4 and 5. So multiply them together, we get 14x squared. Here we get 10x, negative 28x, and negative 20. And we're going to add these two because they are like terms. So we get 14x squared minus 18x minus 20 as our final answer. So it's pretty easy, and like I said, you can always do your first, outside, inside, last. So if you do your first and last on the top, your inside and outside on the bottom, you should get, it almost looks like a squishy face cartoon character. All right, so let's try it with this one. So I'm going to do the arrows. So 2y squared times y. So that's 2y cubed. Outside, 2y and negative 4, that's negative 8y squared. Inside is 3y. And last is negative 12. Since we had a y squared here instead of two y's like the last problem, you don't get these two terms to be alike. If these two terms are different, these two terms will be different, and then you're done. That is your answer. So it can be very short and sweet. All right, so now we're going to square a binomial. So remember squaring. So if I have 4 squared, it means 4 times 4. So let's square a binomial. So you can use the FOIL method still if you would rather, or you can use one of these tricks. So it's really cool. I like to look at it like this. I say, okay, you use red with this yellow, it'll show up. So normally you would think, okay, I've got A plus B, A plus B. So you can do first, outside, inside, last, and then I would add these because AB and AB are the same, so that's A squared plus 2AB plus B squared. And it works the same way if it's minus, okay? So you need to make sure you have this memorized, okay? But the cool thing is I'm going to show you this little trick. So let me do it with numbers because I think it'll make more sense with numbers. All right, so they've taken x plus 6 squared and they broke it down and did FOIL. Okay, so let me show you my little thought process. Okay, so I know that since this is a binomial being squared, it's going to follow the rule. Okay, and the rule says to square the first term. So x squared is x squared. It also says, because if you look back here, it says so a squared, that gave me a squared, but it also says to square this term. So that's going to be b squared. So then I'm going to take and square this. So 6 squared is 36, and that's a positive 36. Now, the middle term here says 2ab. So that means 2 times whatever a is times whatever b is. So I've got 2 times, well, a is this, well, this, so 2 times x, times b, which is 6. So what's 2 times 6? So this would be 12x. So I always remember, square the beginning, square the end, multiply these two together, 6 times x, and then multiply by 2. So 6 times x is 6x. 6x doubled is 12. Okay, so let me do it again. So if I've got x minus 5 squared, square the first term, square the last term. And yes, it's going to be positive because 2 negatives make a positive. Multiply these two together, 5 times x, so that's negative 5x. Now multiply by 2. Okay, so multiply by 2. So negative 5x times 2 is negative 10x. And you're done. Square it, multiply, double. All right, so here we go. We got one that's a little bit different. We got 12a minus 3 squared. So that means if we do this little short method here, so 12a squared. All right, so think about 12a squared. So that means you got a 12 squared and an a squared. So that's 20. That's 144a squared, right? Right. Now you're going to have to multiply these two together, 12a times negative 3, and then double it, which is going to give us 72a. And then you're going to square the end. You're also going to square this. So 3 squared, which is 9. And you're done. That's your answer. Okay. So this piece right here is A, and this piece right here is B in this formula. So a squared minus 2ab plus b squared. Okay, this one, x squared, y squared, multiply it, xy, times 2, 2xy. And that's it. That's your answer. Completely done. Okay, our next one is multiplying the sum and difference of two numbers. Okay, they look similar to what we just did with special products, just a little bit different though. All right, so here's your rule. So this time, instead of a plus b squared or a minus b squared, you're going to do a plus b times a minus b. And this is what it answers. Okay, so notice what happens is a while ago we had a squared plus 2ab minus b squared. Notice this time it's a squared minus b squared. This whole middle term disappeared. Okay, so what's going to happen is the reason the middle term disappears is because this is a plus and this is a minus, so they're going to cancel each other out. So these are shortcuts. And again, if you want to do FOIL, you can do FOIL. First, outside, inside, last. Okay. So if I were to do this, I would do 5a times 5a, which would be 5a squared. then I would do, following the rule, a squared minus b squared, and it only works when these are the same. Okay, sorry, I had to step away and go turn off the machine. It was making all the noise. So let me just kind of backtrack and start over real quick. Okay, so here we're going to use 5a times 5a, so we get the 5a squared. And then according to this formula right here that we have to use, you just do minus and then b squared. So b squared would be 3 times 3, which would be 3 squared. So here we know, according to the product rule, that we're going to distribute that. So that would be 25a squared minus 9, because 3 squared is 9. So as long as you follow this rule right here, then this is it. You're done. Okay? Because the middle terms are going to cancel out. So if we do it here, so always look and see, does the first two terms, are they the same? Are the last terms the same? Is 1 plus and 1 minus. As long as it meets that rule, then you can do a squared, so 8c squared minus b squared, which would be 2d squared, and then you distribute the exponent. 8 squared c squared, so 64c squared, and then 2d squared would be 4d squared. So you would just be done there. Okay? And yes, it works on fractions as well. So following the rule, a squared minus b squared. So the first term, so that's x squared, and then the rule says to subtract. So we take 1 over 3 squared. So 1 over 3 squared would be 1 over 9, because 1 squared and 3 squared. So there's your answer. So here we're going to do 2x squared, so 2x squared squared minus 6y squared. So this is going to be 4x to the 4th minus 36y squared. And you're done. All right. So the next one, using special products. So here, what happens when they're all mixed up and they're not specific in a section? How do you know which rule to use? So here we have 7a squared plus 4. So this is going to be the rule, a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. So square the beginning. So 7a squared. So it's going to be 49a squared. And then the middle term, you multiply these two. So 7a times 4 is 28a squared, and double it. So 56a. And then square the end, 16. Okay. This is the one where they're exactly the same, except one is plus and one is minus. So it's going to follow the rule with no middle term. So c squared minus, and then you got 0.2d squared. So you're going to get 0.04 d squared. Okay, this one, it's going to follow the same rule because they're, oh, no, they're not. I didn't pay attention. This is just going to be your distribution. This is going to be your FOIL method or your double distribute. So I'm going to go first times first. So that's going to be 2y to the 5th, because 3 plus 2 is 5. So 2y to the 5th. 2y to the 5th. And then the outside pieces, so that's negative 1/5 y cubed. The inside pieces plus 2, 2 times 2, so this is going to be plus 4/5. So 4/5 y squared. And then my last terms, so minus, because a positive times a negative is a negative. 2 times 1 is 2. 5 times 5 is 25. So that would be our final answer. So just use the rules from chapter 1, chapter 2 when you're doing your fractions. All right, and that is it. So I will get the next two made and posted as soon as possible.